As a society that is obsessed with seeking knowledge and asking questions, we know shockingly little about our own selves. And the reason is that the questions that we ask are often outbound. We are asking other people, seeking knowledge about the world, but rarely ever about ourselves. Hello, you wonderful people. How are you guys doing? In this video, I'm going to be talking about 5 of my favorite questions for self-reflection and how they've changed my life and can possibly change yours. And I know that that's a pretty bold claim to make, so I'll let you be the judge of that. Watch this video till the end and let me know in the comments which question stood out to you as life-changing. What is the worst that can happen? This is one question that has made me open to taking bigger, more calculated risks in life. I went from being this very awkward, directionless kid in school to being this very confident current version of myself. I quit jobs, moved out of my house, started businesses, failed at businesses, traveled to so many places, pursued my dreams, I followed my passion, I honed my skills. All of those things which are incredibly valuable and wouldn't have been possible if I didn't take those risks. Asking yourself what's the worst that can happen is such a great way to gain perspective and also to realize that the scenarios that we cook up in our heads are in reality not as bad as they seem in our imagination. So back in 2019, I wanted to quit a full-time job, very well-paying full-time job, to start a business. And I was shit scared because, well, what if it didn't work, right? So I posed myself this question. What's the worst that can happen? The answer was that the business probably would fail. So what, right? So then I asked myself this question again. What's the worst that can happen? And the answer was, if the business did fail, would I end up on the streets? Would I not have a home to live in? Would I not have money for sustenance? And the answer to all of those questions was no. The only thing that would probably be hurt would be my pride. And if I didn't take a particular risk just to protect my pride, now that is a decision I would have regretted. So I started that business. It did fail. And then I moved on. I moved on to things that interest me more, better callings. And I don't regret one bit of it. How is this the best thing that has ever happened to me? Now, I have been, like all of us, in plenty of less than ideal situations in life. But this one lesson from my nanny keeps coming back to me, which is how can you turn the worst possible situation into the best possible outcome for yourself? Or how can you turn a bad situation into a good outcome for yourself? It helps me get out of a self-victimizing mindset and sort of gain more control over the things that I can do in life to make the best out of a bad situation. To give you a little bit of context, between 2017 and 2021, I faced a series of life-altering events, from having an infection in my spine, for which I had to take medication for 2 years straight, to seeing my family break up, which is something that we are still in the middle of, by the way. It was just chaos, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely sulked, I cried, I didn't leave my room for days. But at one point in time, my brain was like, enough is enough. And that's when I came back to this lesson from my nanny, and I started asking myself this question. And here's the funny thing about questions. When you throw a question at your brain, the default mode of your mind is to try and find solutions, answers to those questions. If you ask yourself a negative question like, why am I a loser? Your brain will actually try and find answers to that question and not refute that subconscious claim that you're making. And when you keep asking this again and again, it just cements that answer as a fundamental belief system. And you start thinking of yourself as a loser. Which is why when I asked this question, my brain was like, yeah, yada, yada, yada. It came up with a bunch of answers, to be very honest. And this infection has taught me to take better care of my fitness, to not just focus on looking good, but also being actually fit, on improving my immune system, and to just not take my health for granted. And that, in my opinion, is one of the most important lessons that you can learn in your life. What is my body telling me? I have been that person who has lost weight, gained weight, dieted like crazy, worked out like 3 hours a day. All of this because I wanted to look fit, I wanted to look good and look thin and all of that jazz. But there's such a huge difference between actually looking fit and being fit. And I realized that when I got that infection in my bloody spine. And ever since then, I have been asking myself this question, and it has helped me get back in sync with my body. Now it's more of a subconscious self-check-in system that I have with myself. So every time I eat something new, I try a new workout, I try a new exercise move, or I'm doing anything that's physically or mentally demanding for my body, I will do this self-check-in. Being in sync with your body and understanding what your body is trying to tell you is such an intuitive way to go about your health and your well-being. And personally, that works wonders for me. And I think if we learn to listen to our bodies a little bit more, that would really work out great for a lot of other people as well. Is this going to be important 5 years down the line? I cannot tell you the amount of energy and time that I have wasted in petty arguments with my mom, dad, brother, boyfriend, work colleagues. Now when I look back at those incidents which happened like 4 or 5 years ago, I cannot remember what a single stressor was about. The only thing I do remember is just having this constant stressful mindset. And I wonder what would have happened, if I didn't spend all of that time and energy stressing out about petty arguments, petty fights, about situations that I don't even remember. I probably could have utilized that time better to hone my own skills. I could have learned something new, or I just could have spent that time being happier with those people instead. And I don't want to wonder anymore, which is why this question has become such an intrinsic part of my routine. Every time there is a stressful situation, every time something is bothering me, I go back to this question and I ask myself, will this matter 5 years down the line? If the answer is no, if it's not going to matter 5 years down the line, it is not worth stressing about. How is this my responsibility? This is one question that allows you to take extreme ownership of everything that goes on in your life. And for some people, this might be triggering again because life is not in your control. We don't even have our thoughts in our own control, let alone anything else in life. Which is why, in my opinion, asking this question to yourself puts you back in the driver's seat, because it takes you out of a self-victimizing mindset and teaches you to take ownership of the things that you can do to make the best of a bad situation. Going back to the example of my spinal infection, how was that my responsibility? Now, getting the infection itself probably wasn't my responsibility, but I know that if I had taken better care of my health, if I had worked on building up my immunity, I probably wouldn't have gotten the infection in the first place. But from a mental model perspective as well, this is an important question, because after I got the infection, I could have either continued to sulk and whine and get into the whole zone of why is this happening to me and my life is ruined and I can't possibly do anything normally, all of that thought process. And that does happen, it's very natural. But when you ask yourself questions like these, you can actually put an end to that thought process and get back to a place where you now know that certain things, if you do, you can actually get out of that situation. So when I ask myself, how is this infection my responsibility? It is my responsibility to heal. It is my responsibility to take better care of my health. It is my responsibility to become stronger. Nobody else is going to do that for me. And it's when you start taking responsibility and ownership for the darkest things in your life, that's when things start to look a lot brighter. That was it for the 5 questions that have changed my life and that I continue to ask myself almost every single day. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I promise for the next upload, it's not going to be this long a wait. I kind of ghosted you all, and the reason for that was that I fell out of momentum with the entire thing because of self-doubt and just in general not knowing which direction I wanted to go in. But all of that is behind me, which is why if you haven't already, you should subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.